record-breaking 8 million eyes were glued to their screens to witness the landing of Chandrayaan 3. If you're watching this video, I want you to retrospect that feeling of joy and success which you felt in that moment when you watched the landing of Chandrayaan 3. Sure enough, the Indian Space Research Organization achieved a historical feat by making its first ever soft landing on the south pole of the moon, which was also the first by any nation ever. But why was every Indian feeling so proud to be an Indian that day? Probably because we've all heard it somewhere at some point in our lives that whoever controls space is going to control the future, or that the next world war will be fought in space. Hence, to commemorate this collective feeling of achievement and excitement, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi commemorated this day as the National Space Day. What space means for a common man. Philosophically, all of us at some point have agreed and believed that the universe connects us all. But do we realize that today our worlds are literally created and connected beyond and outside our planet? Isn't it a eureka moment when you realize that not only government and space agencies, citizens too are equal stakeholders in this ever-growing and expanding space industry? All nations began their space programs for peaceful and humanitarian purposes. The reflection of signals from a satellite enabled what is called the satellite communication systems. All the broadcasting services are based on these satellite communication systems. The GPS navigation system has almost become the backbone of every industry today. Imagine all our shopping experiences would not have been possible if it wasn't for the global positioning system. Rural lives too have changed in significant ways through the surveillance and forecasting data received from remote sensing systems. Even critical sectors like banking, education and healthcare are increasingly reliant on the space-based solutions. In the last 20 years itself, the number of satellites in Earth's orbit have increased from roughly 800 in 2003 to more than 11,000 in 2023. This is also because the access to space has become easier and cheaper than it was 60 decades ago. Space exploration missions are as important for the scientific community as they are to meet the future demands for resources by mankind. The deep space missions, including the missions to Moon and Mars, are aimed at identifying those resources which can be mined from space and used for different purposes on Earth. For example, the discovery of valuable and rare minerals like helium-3 on Moon's surface opened new doors for the future energy requirements.